So we're seeing a nice rally in some altcoins that we're seeing some of them doing 2 or a 3x in the last couple of days. And Bitcoin is still holding above 20,000. So in this video, I want to give a bit of an update with my thoughts on Bitcoin, on the altcoins, and where I potentially see this going. If you are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Dirk. Subscribe down below. Click that notification bell so that you do get alerted whenever I upload a new video. If you want to get on my email list so I can just send you an email whenever I upload a new video, I have something important to share with you. It's the second link in the description down below. So let's dive straight into today's content. As you can see, Bitcoin is sitting here at $20,600. And several days ago, I've made a couple of videos over the last few days actually, where I've been saying things are starting to look potentially bullish, where we have more upside ahead of us. That is what the charts are showing that we could be seeing. But we are not 100% in the clear yet. We are in a very tricky spot in the markets where we've been going sideways for the last, say, 3-4 months. And in some ways, we could actually look at potentially maybe the bottom is in, right? I made a video in May of this year based on the 3-day death cross. I will link to it up here if you haven't seen that yet, that actually predicted the bottom in 2015, in 2018, so both of those bear markets. And that signal came in middle of June this year too. And so far, as you can see here on the chart, that has been the exact bottom to this point. So now we're in a situation where, based on that theory, the bottom would be in, and we would be looking at 3 to 6 months of sideways before a move up. And we've already had 3 to 4 months of sideways, so there is a chance that that theory could hold. But based on what is happening in the world too, and how bad everything is in the world, we could also see some sort of black swan and some sort of sell-off. So we're in the spot where if there is no black swan and everything kind of goes according to past boom and bust markets, there is a potential that that bottom is in. But we still have to remain cautious. And what I've been saying on the channel is that I want to see a reclaim of Bitcoin of $24,000. That is the 200-week moving average. If we reclaim that, I would start feeling more confident in the medium term that potentially the bottom is in, and that we might start seeing a move to 30,000 or beyond. But until we reclaim that 200-week moving average with a weekly close above it at 24,000, there is still risk that once again, this could be a bear market rally that ends up getting sold off. We had a similar situation back in March of this year where we saw altcoins go 2, 3, 4, 5x in a short period of time and then sell off and go much lower. The only difference now is that, of course, we are many months later in the year. Okay, in March, we still had a lot of downside to go. Now, and I'll show you that in a bit, but most altcoins are down 85, 90, 95%. Most of them have been going down for 1.5 years since they peaked in May of 2021. I know Bitcoin peaked in November of last year, but a lot of the altcoins actually peaked in May of last year. So we are now, even with Bitcoin, 1 year past the all-time high peak. And if you remember, or if even you just go and look at the charts, back in 2018, the bear market didn't even last a full year. Okay, it actually lasted from December 2017 for Bitcoin until early December of 2018. And with altcoins, they only peaked in January, and a lot of them bottomed in about a year. So we are in that exact time frame. We've drawn down a lot. The problem is Bitcoin has not drawn down the usual 84-85% as it has in the past. Now, it doesn't need to do that. So that is where the trickiness comes in. Are we potentially at a bottom where this time we don't go further? We don't drop significantly below the last all-time high peak of about 19,000, which, we've hung around that area. It's been defended very well. And maybe do we form a bottom here and go up? Or do we still get one nasty shakeout surprise where the whole market does drop another 30, 40, 50% in a short period of time? Now, that is something that we have to wait and see how it develops over the coming weeks and months. And obviously, I'll keep you updated here on the channel, so be sure to be subscribed. But we also have to consider the possibility that if we reclaim that 24,000, then who knows? Potentially, the bottom could be in. So that was just a bit of a bigger perspective, zooming out, looking at the bigger picture, not looking at the daily chart timeframes and being stuck in the markets day to day. Zooming out, there is a chance we are at or potentially very close to the end of this bear market. And one thing also, before I move on to some more practical stuff, is what if this time is different to the last times where we don't have another 2 years before the next bull market starts? What if we get a melt up in markets? What if the Fed starts to pivot in early of next year? What if the markets have another major leg up and Bitcoin recovers also and starts a new bull market earlier than that? That's something I'll address perhaps in a different video, because this one is already getting a bit long, but that is a possible scenario that if it happens, I don't know what the chances are. Maybe it's completely unlikely that it happens. Maybe it doesn't happen. But I think there is a small chance that it could. And obviously we'd have to watch the monetary policy, the Fed pivot. But mainly also we have to look at the dollar index. If the DXY starts to reverse in a multi-month reversal sometime next year, if that happens, we're looking at potentially a melt-up scenario in stocks and maybe in crypto too. So I will cover that in a new video. That might be a little bit of bullish hopium, but don't rule it out completely. Okay, so practical stuff. What are we looking at right now? Bitcoin is at 20,600. So I have said over the last couple of days, we still need to reclaim the 3-day 50 moving average, which is about 21.3, and then of course the 200-week moving average. Now what's interesting to see here, this is the daily chart, the 50 moving average in blue, which is 19 points, you can see over here, about 19.6. So that's what I've been saying, 19.5, as long as we hold above that, and ideally 19.7 or so, I think we can continue the upside and we get a run to the 200-day moving average, which is pretty much that 24,000. You can see it's also very close to this previous high over here. And that also very much lines up with the 200-week moving average, which is also at 24,000. So practically speaking, at Bitcoin, I'm looking at if we stay above 19.5, worst case, I think we have a chance at running up to the 200-day moving average, the 200-week moving average, which is at 24,000. If then we reclaim this 24,000 and we can flip the 200-day and the 200-week moving average, which are at the same level right now, which is pretty interesting, then I think we have a much higher probability of running into 30,000 or more. Okay, that is if. So all of this is just working on the probabilities if then. Okay, so we're looking at different levels. Obviously, if we drop down and we drop below 19.5, things are bad and we could be looking at potentially another leg down and potentially new lows. Okay, so that is kind of my bull bear line in the sand at this point in time. 19.5, keep an eye on that. If we drop below that, I will flip back to a bearish stance. Until that happens though, as long as we're above it, I'm cautiously bullish or cautiously optimistic, whatever you want to call it. And I think the potential target here is that 24K. And at that point, we have to wait and see, do we flip it? And do we continue upwards towards 30,000 or more? Or do we get rejected and come back down again, as we did over here even in August? As we did, you can see over here, the 200-day is pretty important too, because it also marked the exact top of the March rally, after which everything sold off a lot. So one thing that I've noticed over the years, that's why I use these moving averages, the 50 in blue, the 200 on red, simple moving average. It works on most time frames and it happens over and over again, whether it's crypto, forex, or stocks. It's just the market fluctuates between these and they tend to act as very important levels. That is why I use them and that's why I continue to share this with you. Once we get above the 50, we're likely to go to the 200. You can see over here. Now on the daily time frames and the shorter time frames, those averages, it tends to move between them, especially when there's these periods of sideways consolidation. But once we get trending, and especially if you start looking at the 3-day and the weekly time frames, usually flips of these moving averages tends to lead, if you go above the 50, here in this scenario, we're likely to go to the 200. In the same way that over here in a bearish trend, once you break below the 50, you can see over here, we tend to target the 200. Okay, and that's how it works over and over again. And then once we're below it in a bearish trend, we flip the 50, then the resistance becomes the 200. Okay, and I know we had some chop here, but you can see the 200 here acted as resistance. So we moved all the way down, we reclaimed a little bit here, and we had this chop. So we mixed signals over here in this sideways action. But now we've properly reclaimed it. So as long as we stay above it, and due to the sideways chop, the likely target is that 200 over here, which is also the 200-week moving average. So that is my scenario. Stay above 19.5, and I'm looking to target 24K. At 24K, if we flip it, potentially 30K plus, I will deal with it at the time and make a new update. But if we fail at 24K, we have to see what happens. Does it come back down again to the 50 or potentially below? And the bearish scenario is if we drop below 19.5 right now and we drop below this 50 daily moving average, then we could be looking at a much more bearish scenario with potentially a bigger sell-off and new lows. So let me share with you now some altcoins. We look at some charts here, specifically starting with Doge, because it has a special relationship in the altcoin markets. And a lot of the time, what we've seen in the past is that first Dogecoin has this massive pump, and then the money spills over to other altcoins. We get a mini alt season, but then it could also lead to potential further downside. I want to break this down for you. I know this video is getting a little bit long, but if you find it interesting, I'm trying to share with you as much of a bigger picture insight to be able to help you navigate these markets. So looking at Dogecoin, this is the daily chart, and you can see over here, back in January of 2021, Dogecoin basically kicked off a lot of the bull market. I know it started a couple months earlier after the 2020 halving, but you can see here, this is basically the point when altcoins started getting attention again, and we went from January until May. We had a major rally in most altcoins in this bull market, and Doge was one of the first to kick it off. So you can see over here, it had a big run, massive pump, and then went sideways for a long time, and it had an even bigger pump. So Dogecoin peaked in May of last year, of 2021, like many altcoins did, and since then it's been only going down. And you can see over here what has happened since that top. You can see it has declined 92%, actually a little bit more, probably 93% from peak to trough. So obviously anyone who ended up buying these highs got absolutely wrecked if they ended up holding that, which is why it's so important to understand how these charts work, how the market cycles work, and you need to know that you should be buying when the markets are low in the bear market periods like we're in now, and then you want to be looking to sell these major pumps and not do the inverse, because most retail investors, especially people new to crypto that didn't get in the last cycle, that don't know the stuff, they end up buying in towards the very tops, holding and drawing down 70, 80, 90%, and they're probably selling for a loss at the bottom. So you want to understand how this works so you can maximize your profits. So what we've had now is we've seen this pump in Dogecoin, and it started with Dogecoin, and since then we've seen other altcoins make other pumps too, and we've seen I'll have a look at some others, but like Band, Matic, even Shiba Inu, there's lots of coins that are having nice pumps following Dogecoin. And the question is, again, what kind of situation are we in? Is this potentially Doge leading the way for a mini altcoin season, and do we get something like this where it pumps first, it goes sideways? You can see over here it went sideways and it kind of retraced after that initial pump. A lot of people thinking that was dead, and then we got this massive move to the upside. Now obviously the conditions were a little bit different in terms of Bitcoin, in terms of the whole market cycle and where we were at, but let's see what happens now. Could this be a repeat here where we have a mini pump in alts like we're seeing right now, potentially multiple months of sideways, and then a continuation next year with a massive move to the upside? Is that going to be a possibility? It's something we have to keep an eye on. Obviously, it could just be another one-time pump that comes all the way back down and goes sideways for multiple months, but we have to look at the various possibilities. So we've seen Doge have this big pump. It basically did a 3x already in the last, say, 2 weeks or so. Then we have many altcoins that are currently looking like this. This is, for example, SHIB. That is very similar to the whole Dogecoin pump and massive drop and retrace. And Shiba has not yet followed the Doge scenario. So that's why I'm saying I actually posted this earlier in my Discord and on social media and a few other places, is that potentially Shiba could follow Doge. Okay, we're not talking about fundamentals here or anything like that. We're not talking about the quality of the coin or anything like that. We're talking about purely the charts, and this chart is looking very similar to Doge before it pumped. So is there potential for this to do a 2, 3, 4x maybe in the next few weeks if we get a continuation of this bullish conditions in the market, and as long as Bitcoin holds up and maybe even goes higher? I think that's a possibility. And here is Band, just to give you another example, similar in a way, like a lot of these altcoin charts all look similar to what I've shared with you. They had a massive peak in May of last year, and since then they've been going down for, at this point, almost 1.5 years, and many of them have just dropped 85, 90, 95%. You can see from peak to trough 95%, And you can see we've had multiple months of going sideways with a bullish divergence on the daily, on the 3-day. I've shared this with you in videos over the last couple of weeks. And we get this massive pump, and you can see over here, Band did basically almost a 3x over here, literally in the last few days. And we are seeing this more and more in different altcoins. So we had Doge started off, and we're seeing Band, we're seeing other altcoins do 2-3x. The question is going to be, like I've said before, is this the start of a longer extended rally, or is this just a mini alt season like we saw in March that's going to come back all the way down and potentially even see new lows sometime in the future? The only thing that is different, of course, like I've said also, is that now we are 1.5 years into a bear market and 95% down, whereas in March, things were very, very different. You can see over here, and this one specifically was in August, but you can see over here even how much further we could still go down. Now we've already dropped 95% and we're down 1.5 years on most of these altcoins. So things are a little bit different in terms of the bearish and the bullish scenarios for these altcoins. And just one more chart that I want to show you. Obviously, there's hundreds of thousands, there's even tens of thousands of different altcoins, so we can't go through all of them. But I just want to bring this point across over here. So again, this is one, and you can see from the peak over here, this was in October of 2021. So this was a bit of a late bloomer compared to some of the alts that already peaked in May. But you can see since October of last year, again, it's also down 95%, and that is more than a year down. And you can see multiple months of sideways. We have this bullish divergence. One over here, this could be another one of those charts that is primed to follow the Doge route or the Band route and do a 2 or 3x in a short period of time. Many of these altcoins are looking like that. So I just want to warn you also, is that when they get these pumps and they do a 2, 3, 4, 5x, be very careful about FOMO buying and chasing those pumps, because a lot of the time after it pumps, if you buy the top, it drops all the way back down, and it could take months before it potentially gets back to those levels. So be very careful about chasing pumps. Ideally, my personal strategy, what I'm looking to do is when I see this kind of situation, I see this kind of environment, I look at, for example, okay, Doge did this pump, Band did this pump. I go and look at the charts and I go and look at different altcoins, which ones have a similar setup to those coins that have already pumped before the pump. So for example, like one, right, you can see over here, very similar setup, multiple months of sideways, bullish divergence, but not yet a crazy 2 or 3x pump. And then that way I can look for these coins that haven't pumped yet, try and position myself ahead of those pumps, and then look to get a 2 or 3 or 4x. Once that pump happens, get out. And again, like I said, I don't know if this is going to get a continuation. That's something we'll have to wait and see. Maybe it's a mini alt season like March, where we get a couple of weeks or maybe 1 or 2 months of upside, nice pumps, and then a drop back down again for multiple months before we get some sort of new bull market. That is a potential scenario too. So I know this was a very long update, but I think we're in an interesting spot in the markets. I hope you enjoyed this update and kind of see the potential over here. And I think things are going to get very, very exciting in the next 1 to 2 years in the crypto market. Like I've said before many times, the bear market is when you want to be paying attention. This is when you want to be learning, researching, positioning yourself, because these are the best times compared to, once the bull market starts going, it becomes much harder to get involved. You buy in a lot higher, you don't know which coins to buy, you don't know what to do, and it just becomes much more unfavorable towards making a lot of profits versus preparing yourself in the bear market to be able to exit in the bull market. When everyone only gets involved towards the very tops, you want to be looking at, buying in these lows and selling towards these highs, buying the lows and selling towards the next highs. So I hope you enjoyed this update. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment down below. What do you think is going to happen? Are you bearish? Are you bullish? What is your outlook for the next year or so? And if you haven't done so yet, subscribe down below. Also, if you want to join my VIP membership, like I said, the bear market is the best time to get involved. So if you want to learn, if you want to come and join the Discord, you want to learn how to read charts, how to trade, and which coins I'm personally buying and selling, join my VIP mentorship. Second link in the description down below. There's a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you can get full access to everything. If you're not happy, come and learn for a month. Spend 6 or 7 weeks learning, join the Discord, ask questions. If you're not happy, you can still get a full refund, no strings attached. So like I said, you want to learn, now is the best time to start learning and preparing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have an awesome weekend.